Will the Cowboys make a trade? Hit 1 for yes, 0 for no. The deadline's a month away, so get your predictions in now. Let's start with Jeffery Simmons. The whispers that circled the draft are back louder than ever. A recent social media report lit the fuse. It suggested the Titans could move Simmons in 2025 and threw out specific cap numbers. But the math in that post mixed things up. It confused a cut-and-release scenario with a trade, and that made the dead money look far worse than reality. Here's the takeaway: Simmons carries a hefty cap figure for Tennessee, and trading him would free some space, but it's not the eye-popping number some posts claimed. Cutting a player outright creates a much larger one-time dead money hit. A trade usually results in a smaller, more manageable charge. Now, should Dallas be interested? Hell yes. Picture Simmons clogging lanes, collapsing pockets, and turning the middle of the line into a war zone beside Micah Parsons. Offensive lines would have nightmares. That kind of interior power changes the game on third down and opens lanes for the run. But this isn't a fairy tale. The Titans aren't likely to part with Simmons for pennies. There's real cost here: draft capital, cap implications, and the risk of mortgaging the future for immediate pressure. The Cowboys must weigh an all-in, statement move against smart roster building and long-term balance. Rumors will keep flying. Watch the cap numbers and the asking price, not the noise. If the Cowboys want to shock the league, Simmons is the kind of player who does it. If they want steadier progress, they may pass. Again, 1 for yes, 0 for no. What do you think? Would you trade for Simmons? Tell me below. So here's the real breakdown: the numbers being thrown around online were inflated. If Simmons were traded, the new team would be responsible only for his base salary and some per-game bonuses, not the massive figure that was reported. Realistically, the hit is closer to $18 million for the rest of this year, depending on when the deal happens. After that, his contract sits at about $20.6 million in 2026 and $23.5 million in 2027. The key detail? None of that money is guaranteed. That's rare leverage in today's NFL. Now let's talk about the player himself. Jeffery Simmons is starting to look like the dominant force we saw in 2022. Already this season, he's stacked up 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks while playing on a Titans team that looks like it's headed for a rebuild. His run-stopping has always been top tier, and when he's healthy, he can wreck an offensive line single-handedly. So what does that mean for Dallas? On one hand, Simmons is exactly the type of player who could tilt the balance of power in the NFC. He'd line up next to Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and give the Cowboys a defensive front no offense wants to see. On the other hand, you have to ask if investing big draft picks and cap space in yet another expensive defensive tackle is smart roster management. Simmons is absolutely a realistic NFL trade candidate. The Titans look like they're blowing it up, and his value is sky high. But for the Cowboys specifically, it's a tougher call. Do you swing for the fences and add a star? Or do you keep your assets and build for balance? If it were up to you, would you pull the trigger? Drop a yes if you'd trade for Simmons, or no if you'd pass. Here's the real challenge: adding Jeffery Simmons might not give Dallas the best return on investment. Think about it: the Cowboys already have Kenny Clark and Osa Odigizua, 2 interior defenders who are paid to be on the field. If Simmons comes in, someone's snaps get cut, and suddenly you're tying up a huge chunk of your cap in a rotation where one of your stars is watching from the sideline. That's not smart team building. If Dallas truly wants to make a splash, the move should target a position of need, not one that's already stacked. The defensive tackle room is strong. The edge rusher group? That's where you could argue the Cowboys need another difference maker. Now, if you told me Dallas could land an elite pass rusher on the outside, a guy who wrecks tackles the way Simmons wrecks guards, that's a completely different conversation. But for Simmons specifically, the fit just isn't perfect. The talent is undeniable, the firepower is real, but this roster has to be balanced, not overloaded at one spot. Now let's shift to the secondary. NFL insider Ian Rappaport dropped a report Sunday morning that caught a lot of attention. Cornerback Tariq Woolen could be a name to watch before the trade deadline. With Devin Witherspoon returning healthy, Woolen's playing time has dropped. He hasn't been the same ball hawk we saw as a rookie when he picked off 6 passes and looked like a future star. This year, his snaps are down, his impact has faded, and suddenly teams around the league are circling, wondering if Seattle might be willing to move him. That raises the question, should the Cowboys get involved? Dallas has struggled with consistent cornerback play this season. Adding a long, athletic defender like Woolen could be the kind of gamble that pays off big. He's got the size, the speed, and the raw ability, the traits you can't teach. Of course, there are risks. His production has slipped. His confidence doesn't look the same. And if he really has fallen out of favor in Seattle, you have to wonder why. But talent like his rarely becomes available, especially mid-season. Let's be honest, Tariq Woolen would likely be an upgrade over what Dallas has right now. And the truth is, he fits the Cowboys type perfectly. They love long, athletic corners, and Woolen checks every box: 6 feet 4 inches, 205 pounds, 33-inch arms, and blazing 4.26 speed. Honestly, it was a surprise when Dallas didn't draft him. Maybe there were medical concerns, but on paper, he looks like a dream fit. Here's the catch: if you trade for him, you're buying low. That can be a good thing, but it can also backfire if his play doesn't bounce back. And then you've got to ask, what's the long-term plan? The Cowboys just locked up Darren Bland. Are they really going to turn around and hand out another massive cornerback contract in 2026? If not, then Woolen could end up as just a rental. And is Dallas in position to spend real draft capital on a rental? Probably not, unless it's a late day 3 pick. And let's be real, Woolen is worth more than that in theory. Then there's the scheme fit. Woolen is at his best in man coverage, where his size and length give him a huge advantage. He can play some cover 3, but zone hasn't been his strength. And the Cowboys' defensive staff leans heavy on zone. If the front office makes this move, they'd better be sure their vision matches what the coaching staff wants, because too often, those two haven't been on the same page. Now, speaking of trade possibilities, another name has popped up: Cam Jordan. Pro Football Network listed him as a potential fit for Dallas, and that's a conversation worth having too. Let's break down the pros and cons. Let's talk Cam Jordan. His name has been floating around as a potential trade target, and there are a few things to unpack here. First off, the contract is cheap, basically a veteran minimum. For Dallas, that makes it appealing. For the Saints, who look like a team going nowhere, maybe they just take what they can get and let Jordan chase a ring. But here's the problem: this isn't the Cam Jordan of 5 years ago. He's still solid, still brings leadership and toughness, but he's not racking up sacks the way he once did. If you trade for him, you're getting a rental, not a superstar. And you have to ask yourself, are you chasing the name or the production? Because if it's 2024 Cam Jordan, you're still going to be complaining about the pass rush numbers. Now, Bleacher Report threw out another idea: wide receiver Xavier Legette. They suggested Dallas should make a move for him with a conditional 3rd-round pick. Let me be blunt, I don't get this at all. The Cowboys already have depth at receiver. CeeDee Lamb will be back soon. You just traded for George Pickens. Jalen Tolbert has stepped up in big moments, Kavonte Turpin brings speed and excitement, and Ryan Flournoy showed flashes the other night. Why in the world would Dallas give up draft capital for a wideout with just 505 yards and 8 drops in 18 career games? He has more drops than touchdowns. That's not the answer. If Jerry Jones wants to go after a shiny new toy, fine, but it doesn't solve the real problem. The focus should be on defense, edge rush, corner help, difference makers who can shift the balance in January. A receiver rental isn't the move. So I'll throw it to you, if the Cowboys make a trade, who's the one player you'd want to see in the star?